Welcome to another AI episode. Today we're going to take a closer look at Nvidia, some recent news impacting the overall stock. More importantly, taking a closer look at SKHynix. This is a huge memory player, a huge provider of memory for Nvidia's AI chips. They just reported earnings and things are looking really good. Outside of that, I also want to take a closer look at some speculations happening with the Stargate program. We did hear some talks and some fights between Elon Musk and Sam, the CEO of OpenAI. So I just want to share my overall thoughts there and what do I believe about this $500 billion investment that we covered in yesterday's episode. So too long don't watch. SKHynix pretty much gave amazing earnings. They are driving strong growth in HBM solutions. They believe that in 2025, they expect 100% year-over-year growth on HBM markets. So overall, that kind of gives a nice segue that Nvidia solutions can continue to grow in volume and very much bullish for the AI accelerator space. So hope you guys enjoyed that quick breakthrough, but if you want to hear my full thoughts, make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the episode. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offer at fools.com/Jose, and check out my free daily semiconductor newsletter where I will be covering SKHynix. The link is down below.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
Now, before we go any further, I mentioned this in this morning's episode, but I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support. We hit 60,000 subscribers. I really hope that my free videos provide value to you, as that subscribe means a lot, right? It allows me to do a lot of things in my daily life. It allowed me to quit my engineering job. So I just want to say I'm thankful for all the support that you guys are giving me. And I hope these free videos provide you with so much value that the free subscription is worth it, right? So thank you again, and hopefully I do another episode in the future thanking you for 70,000, 80,000, and maybe one day we'll get the 100,000 subscriber plaque. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to do this on a daily basis. All right, so let's take a closer look at Nvidia. And Nvidia right now, it was up roughly 4.4% on the day. So congratulations to all long-term investors. It was definitely nice to see the super green day. Unfortunately, after hours, the stock was down roughly 1.2%. Now, the only reason I would say the stock price is down right now is even though SKHynix, in my opinion, gave great report, it did miss expectations. We're going to see in forms of revenue, it was a huge growth compared to same time last year. It was a huge growth in quarter-over-quarter. But I guess the market sees that they missed in profits, and this miss on profit is creating kind of a negative sentiment for some semiconductor stocks. We can see SKHynix right now in their overall traded market is down roughly 3%. And even a competitor to SKHynix, Micron, is down roughly 3% as well. Now, my overall beliefs is the market is sometimes expecting a little bit too much. And just a miss in earnings expectations is causing this negative stock price reaction. I believe the sentiment for memory is still very bullish in the long term, and very similar to what we heard from Micron about a month ago when they reported earnings, that while HBM is doing really well, the consumer space is doing weaker than previously expected. And I believe that is going to be the case why SKHynix mixed revenue, right? We heard this story a month ago from Micron, so it's very highly possible that the same thing happened with SKHynix. So while the stocks are down, I believe the market is just not understanding that HBM is only a certain segment for these memory players. Overall, as we're going to see, very bullish for Nvidia and for SKHynix and the memory space, SKHynix. Now, before we look a little bit closer at the SKHynix report, I want to cover this CNBC exclusive interview with the Microsoft CEO. And here, two things kind of happened. In Twitter, if you go to Twitter or X, Elon Musk and Sam Altman were fighting, and Elon pretty much said that this $500 billion AI investment has really no funding actually secured. And then Sam Altman said, hey, look, we actually do have it. We're already building data centers because we have funding secure. So it's kind of creating a lot of negative sentiment in the stock space about this AI investment. Now, as an AI investor myself, when I think about this $500 billion investment in Stargate, I want to say in a top level overview, I see this just more of a bullish case of the market growing, right? It showcases that there is going to be strong investments in the AI space. But really, I don't know if I put a true value to $500 billion, right? If you're running numbers, in my opinion, I don't know if I would put $500 billion. What I'm really looking at, though, is that trend. That massive trend that AI investments is still heavy, because if it's happening with OpenAI and all these other companies, then it's most likely going to be happening with other players as well. And that can kind of pull Nvidia higher and higher. So while I am hopeful that it is actually $500 billion, I wouldn't say I would die with in the rock saying that, hey, look, $500 billion is an absolute truth, right? So it's important to understand when looking at these numbers and these CEO promises, always take them with some truth, but it is important to understand where that trend is going. So overall, very bullish for Nvidia. I think Elon's just a little salty right now for his own reasons, but maybe we can talk about that in another episode. Now, in the Microsoft CEO interview, they asked Satya if he believes that they have the $500 billion investment secured. And he just mentioned, I don't know what other people are doing. I just know I'm good for my $80 billion this year. So again, at least we get another confirmation that on a yearly basis, Microsoft has $80 billion to give in capital expenditure for AI infrastructure, right? That is a lot and a lot of money. And this is one company, right? And we saw that the Stargate was multiple companies and multiple investment players. So it's not impossible. $500 billion in 4 years between multiple companies is only about $100 and something billion per year, where one company, Microsoft, is able to do 80 billion in 1 year, right? So you can see that it's not an impossible number. I'm not saying it's the absolute truth, but it's just not an impossible number. And that's certain things that I think as an investors, we should kind of take place. All right, so now that we know about the Microsoft CEO, my overall thoughts on kind of the Stargate debate and battle, let's kind of go back to SKHynix. So SKHynix, if we look at their fourth quarter revenue, it was up 12% quarter over quarter and 75% year over year. They also did see an operating margin increase of 1 percentage point quarter over quarter and 38 percentage points year over year. Now, I have highlighted a lot of information here for investors to know, but overall, SKHynix announced today their record best yearly performance in revenue and earnings. So I'm going to show you that. This was their fourth quarter earnings, right? So on a yearly basis, it was the best year SKHynix has ever had. In particular, as we saw, revenue on a quarter over quarter basis was up 12%, mainly driven by AI memory, as the company achieved all-time high results through world-leading HBM technology. HBM continued its growth in fourth quarter, marking over 40% of total DRAM revenue, and also shows continued increase in sales. Now, SKHynix forecasts that demand of HBM is going to continue throughout the year, as you're seeing things like AI servers grow, AI inference technology becoming very important, and eventually kind of high demand in DRAM, because we're seeing more things in the AI space for the consumer market. The AI PC, the AI smartphone, and that's expected to pick up in the second half of this year. The company does plan to expand its HBM3E supply and develop HBM4 in the right time to meet customer needs with stable demands, aka Nvidia. Now, they also had a pretty cool presentation, and I want to showcase some cool things out of this. Now, in terms of revenue by application, graphics, we can see from just a quarter ago and a year ago, graphics is becoming a massive player in the DRAM space. So this tells me a few things, that, hey, look, AI chips are growing in revenue numbers, and also the amount of memory that goes per chips per AI accelerators is also growing. But this kind of gives us a nice headwind, a nice tailwind that tells us at least that there is a huge probability that Nvidia's revenue can continue to grow in the upcoming quarters. The other things that we did see from SKHynix report is that they expect their HBM market for the full year of 2025 to grow over 100% year over year. They also mentioned that HBM4 is on track for year 2025 with mainstream products in year of 2026. Not only that, I want to say maybe one of the bearish things that maybe some investors might have been worried about is they are seeing rising demand from ASIC customers in HBM. So maybe some investors might be worrying that now Nvidia has more players to fight for this memory player and for HBM, which was already somewhat supply constrained. Very similar to how Nvidia has to fight other players for TSMC's advanced packaging solution. Now, very similar to Micron, SKHynix also mentions that they're going to increase their 2025 capex versus 2024, mainly to continue to invest in HBM capacity. So overall, in my opinion, SKHynix just kind of gave more evidence that the HBM market is strong, which means that the AI accelerator market is strong because that's where HBM is fully used. Now, very similar to Micron, we do know that the consumer space is still weak and was weaker than expected. And we should see the consumer space pick up in the second half of 2025, very similar to what Micron told us as well. So for me, I believe as if I was a Micron shareholder, I really wouldn't be too worried about this because this is just a mirror of what Micron gave us a month ago during their last earnings. And any opportunities below $100 for Micron, I think is pretty attractive. So I really wouldn't be too worried as a Micron shareholder. Again, in my opinion, this is very bullish for the AI accelerator space. Now, I do have one more thing from the earnings transcript. SKHynix mentioned that they are already having initial discussions with some customers regarding HBM supply volumes for 2026, and they expect to be able to gain some visibility for most of next year's volume by the first half of this year. So I think, again, that continues to showcase that there's going to be not only strong demand for HBM in 2025, which means that it's going to be a great year for AI accelerators, but also in 2026, where it kind of gives us some evidence that 2026 is also going to be strong for companies like Nvidia. So those are just my overall thoughts. Quick thing on Nvidia, right now at these price points, I'm personally not adding, just want to share my overall thoughts. I do have Nvidia as my biggest position. If I wanted to add right now, it would be very small dollar cost averaging. But I've mentioned in the past, I think for Nvidia, this is a company that is for patient investors. Just in the past in the past 6 months, we had the opportunity to get below 130 in December. In September, we had the opportunity for patient investors to get near 100. And in August, we got below 100. So this is why I mentioned that I believe Nvidia will continue to be one for the patient investors. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.